was single, she asked him about, when sisters get together, leading prayer. And sisters could lead prayer in a straight line. But Reliki thought you could make prayers together, but by yourselves. So that's what she did. That's what Sheikh Hassan told her. So when he left, he went back to Nigeria. He called me from Nigeria the very next day and said, "Oh, you were right, and he was also right." So he said both sides. So that's when I said to myself, so he's a real scholar, because those are the scholars that I knew, and that's what they would do. So if he would say something and I would ask him about something else, and if he disagreed, he would do the research and come back and say why, et cetera, et cetera. Just for an example, one day he called me he's at Northwestern, because they were doing Islamic comparison, the religion there. And he said, asked me, he said, if people divorce, women divorce, and so that it made her single, and if she had an affair, illicit affair, what is her punishment? Be stoned to death or to be beaten. I said, well, she was single, so that wasn't adultery, it was considered fornication. He said, no, it was adultery. I said, why? He said, because once you have been married, then you understand what marriage is. And to fornicate or adultery, what it does to a community at large. So next day, I called Dr. Guybert from the Islamic Center, maybe it could have been the same day, from the Islamic Center, 96th Street. And Sheikh Hassan told me what the information was and picked the Sunnah. So when I spoke to the Imam at 96th Street, he said, no, Kareemah, that's considered fornication. I said, okay, I hung up the phone. 5 minutes later, Dr. Guybert called. He said, no, you were right. He also did the research. So those are, so I was always blessed to be around scholars. So when I went to Senegal when Ali Cisse died.
Did you ever meet Sayyidi Ali Cisse?
Yes, I did.
Oh, this was not the first time then.
No, it wasn't the first. The first time I went, actually, I was on my way to Senegal. It was around the Maulid time. And at that time, I didn't realize what it was. And so I was going.
Do you remember what year that was?
I'm just trying to think now. I'm triple with years. I think that was around, I don't know, probably someplace around 76, 77. Yeah, 77, 78, someplace around there. And so that's when I stopped. I said to myself, oh, let me stop in Senegal on my way to Nigeria to check and see who Sheikh Hassan really is and where he come from. And that was in my mind. That's exactly why I went, just to check him out to see who he is. So when I went there, Saeed was there with his wife, Sabo. They were there together. Sawa.
Imam Saeed and Sister Sawa were visiting, or they were staying there?
Oh, they were visiting. They were visiting. They were staying in what is now Imam's house, because then it was all that property belonged to Imam Saidi. So that's when I met him. But when I met him, it was like you meet someone who he could see right through you. Until I felt guilty. I really feel this. I felt guilty that I paid spin the bottles when I was 6. And that's how I felt when I met him. And he sort of made me nervous because I felt that he knew I was really there, like he could see right through me. But it was nice. He made arrangements for me to get back to the airport because I was really not supposed to be there. So then from there, I went on to Nigeria, where I met Sheikh Hassan, and I stayed with some friends there that I already knew, who actually I met through, it was just a chain of people I met. Once I met the Ghanaians, then I met Nigerians, and then Sheikh Hassan, so I just had people at every place. So I had the family I stayed with, Mutalib family. His son, Mutalib's son, was the one who was the underwear bomber. That was his son.
Oh, wow. Okay. So then what can you talk a little bit more about that first time your first time in Medina? What was it like? Did you get to spend a lot of time with Sayyidi Ali Cisse? Were there other Americans in addition to Imam Saeed and Sister
No,
Sal?
no, that was the only one there. Then I really didn't stay that long. I stayed at Imam's house in
Mhm.
Yafatu's room and so forth,
Oh,
and
wow.
his sisters and
So you
everyone was
spent
there.
some time with Yafatu as well that time?
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. What was that like?
I mean, no, Yafatu. Well, I couldn't communicate with anyone, but it was so funny because um Haber was married to Umi Sisi from Mauritania. He was wanted to welcome me, so he spoke to his wife in the Mauritanian, their Arabic language that they speak. She spoke to the sister from Gambia who spoke English to welcome me and so forth. So that was what I was going to so many people, just communicate. It was the first time I had a tire. And when he gave me this strong drink in this shot glass, I said, what in the world is this? Because once, coming from here, once you see a shot glass, you just go, your mind go another direction. But that was the first time I had a tire. And it was a nice visit, but I just stayed one day. So but with
So
that
what did
one day,
as you like coming as an American, I know you mentioned, Imam Said and Sister Salwa, there were two. What were people, Sayyidi Ali and others, people's understandings of like Muslims coming from the US, African Americans?
they like that. I found that the Senegalese, like even if you wear their their dresses and so forth, they like that. They enjoy you doing their culture and so forth. I like the treatment. I met Isaka, um, who was from Ghana, but he had been there serving Ali Sisi. In fact, he served Sheikh Hasan. He's the one who was guarding Sheikh Ibrahim's house where he did at his room and so forth. So we became really close to his family, and everyone welcomed me. I really didn't have a difficult time being there. I mean, the lifestyle was different, but people's culture is what it is. So you join the culture. You don't come outside and try to bring everything in, you know, and so forth. And like Amina will look at me and say, "Oh, mommy, you could just live any place." I said, "Yes, I can because I can always go home." And when Amina's father came to visit us, he looked at me and said, "Oh, Kareemah, you don't have to invent fire again," and so forth. But everybody was helpful. Jamil was helpful whenever he made sure that we had the monetary support that we needed. Every year he came, he brought 2 or 3 duffel bags of goods for all the kids there. He would send some things to Fatima's house also for the kids that stayed there. My daughter Fatima, she was working for Daoud, Dr. Daoud Jeffries.
Mm-hmm.
She was working for him in his office. So she was always getting him to get medicine. So he was also sending us medicine, when I had all the kids there. So I got support from the people. In fact, the one who invited me first to Senegal was not Sheikh Hassan. He was Uncle Papa Hattie, who Sheikh Hassan very close to, because when I started school, Sheikh Hassan used to tell people about me all the time. So when I came there, like people already knew who I was.
How did you
And
get the invitation from Papa Hadi?
I don't know, he invited me. Sheikh Hassan said, "Oh, my uncle's inviting you to come." And I don't know if you ever been to Papa Hattie's house, but he had this huge room with the bathroom that he stayed in. Actually, he had made that room for me. So when I come there where I was supposed to stay. But when Amina and I went, there's another American brother. I can't remember who he was. He was sort of, I hope he's not here online, but he was like sort of a nuisance to me. I sort of find some of the brother act like I supposed to take care of them kind of thing. Because I had that when I made Harder the first time with Shabazz, was when it Shabazz, the dude Shabazz and the brother Ali. We made Hard together in '82, and I feel like I had 2 husbands because every time they had a problem, "Oh, well, y'all cook her sister Kareemah, cook sister Kareemah. Can you wash my clothes?" So I was getting that kind of reaction. So this brother was just getting my nerves. So I said, "Sheikh Hassan, let me stay here I was staying in Imam's house then before it became his house. I said, let me just stay here, and you send the brother to Hattie's house. So that's how I lost Papa Hattie's house, because I sent his other brother there. And when before I went to Senegal, let me back up. When I went over there to give my condolences to the family when Imam
When Saidia Ali passed?
Ali died,
Mhm.
passed. Excuse me. I see all the kids reading Quran and everything with la ilaha illallah, Allah Akbar. You know, you just things that you read about suddenly came alive. So I said, oh, I want this for my daughter, for Amina. So when I came home, I called Jamil because he and we weren't together. He separated. So I said, you know, I want to take Amina to Senegal to study Quran. Oh, he said, oh, that's great. And he had his son Yusuf. He said, well, can you take Yusuf too? I said, yes. I said, Yusuf Muslim. I would like for him to learn as well. So that's when I started making preparations. So I came back like around August, but that winter was in June. So when I called her, I said, oh, I'm gonna come. I wrote him a letter, a long letter by 8 pages. And I knew then, I said, look, Sheikh Hassan, the letter is long. And I know you're not gonna want to read it, but please read this letter. So I told him I wanted to go, start a school. I would be the den mother, whatever, the housekeeper, whatever that entailed. And we could have American kids to come and stay. I said, but first Amina and I will come. And you said. So I had a sister organization called MARC, the Muslim Education Action Resource Committee, with Aliyah, Majida's mother, and Suad's mother, and so forth. So we had fundraising, and with the money that we had raised, we gave scholarships to some of the other kids to go over. Let's took a group over. So that's when we all went over as a group. But Amina, I don't know if she realized that she wasn't going back home with the group. So, and when we was there, Chef Jerry, he took us around. We went to Tuba. We raced in that car. We went to Gambia. We stayed in Gambia. I had already had a friend there because I had a surrogate daughter, Hadiwada, who Sheikh Hassan stayed with her father when he was in England in school. So when Hadiwada came to the U.S. to go to school, they sort of put me in charge of her. So when she went she was in school upstate New York, studying, then she got sick. So I had to go and get her and bring her back home, or bring her here. And she lived with me for 2 years before, she went back home the same time I went to Senegal. So I used to call Imam Sadie. I used to call him. So we became close on the phone. And Sheikh Hassan used to get jealous that I was his father's friend, because I used to have dreams of the Prophet at that time. And Cisse used to tell people that I was Wali also. So that was sort of Mauritania and other places. So when Ali Cisse first got sick, he was in a hospital in France. So I sent him a letter, a goodwill card, with whatever else. So when he received the card, this is from Sheikh Hassan's mouth, okay? Because I wasn't there. Sheikh Hassan, oh, this woman, you got a card from this woman. So Ali Cisse said, who? Kareemah? So Sheikh Hassan said, what do you do to my father? Y'all such friends. And I couldn't really communicate that well. But Hattie Waller, when I would call him and see how he was doing, she would also translate for me and so forth. So and he's the one who actually gave me the Tariqa, not Sheikh Hassan, actually, but Sheikh Hassan later. And
who gave you the Tariqa?
Imam Sadie.
Wow, mashallah.
He gave
that
me
was when you were in Senegal, or like over the phone?
He gave it to me. Actually, he wrote me a letter when he was in Egypt with Sheikh Hassan, and giving me permission to he gave me permission to use all the secrets in the Tariqa. And he gave me, and what I didn't do, he wanted me also to to write, to spread the word, Dr. Tariqa. And he also gave Saeed permission
Yeah,
as
Imam,
well. So I got it
Sayyidi
from
Ali
both Sheikh
Cisse gave
Hassan
both you and Imam Saeed this
Hmm?
permission. You said Sayyidi Ali gave both you and Imam Saeed.
Yeah. I guess he got this. I know he gave Saeed this. I guess both Saeed and myself, we got Tariqa from both Ali Cisse and Sheikh Hassan.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, that much I knew for sure, and I'm sure that Imam Saeed boys also had the letter stating that, because I had it in Sheikh Hassan, he had translated it for me as well into English, but they was at a hotel in Egypt when he wrote that. So I always felt sort of close to him, and he was a good man, a very special person. He had a lot of really insight, so I could see why Sheikh Ibrahim had told him that, I don't have time for my kids to raise them, so I'm putting them in your hand to make sure they get their religious studies and things of this type. So he was really very, very close to, very, very close. And when I first moved to Senegal with Amina, and
Oh, wait, hold
everybody
on.
left.
Before you get to the details of that, so I want to back up to this letter that you mentioned. So for those who are not fully aware, so Sister Kareemah, as she mentioned, she wrote this 8-page letter to Sheikh Hassan, and
About the school.
Yeah, and so and now, it's been however many 30, 40 years, and we have this Quran school in Senegal where hundreds of African American students have studied Quran. Many of them have memorized Quran, including the first woman that we know of from the US, Sister Kareemah's daughter, Amina Kareemah. Yes. So can you kind of talk about like what you wrote in that letter? What was your idea? Like what, because this is like a legacy that so many people are benefiting now and don't realize your instrumental role in starting it.
My idea when I came back home from giving my condolence to the family, actually I didn't want to go because I was on my way to make Umrah that year. That was in '82, and I had told Sheikh Hassan, well, I won't be able to come to give my condolences, whatever. So a few months after he died, Sheikh Hassan, oh, well, everyone is waiting for you to come to give your condolences. And I said, oh, okay. So I couldn't, so I had to go. So I left my job. I told them I don't know, they assumed that, I think they thought my husband was from Senegal and I was going there because of that, whatever. So I left my job, and so I guess when I went there, I was so impressed. So when I came back home, I wrote Sheikh Hassan and told him I'd like to bring Amina there and set up a program for American children. I said I would charge $200 a month, which, for taking care of them, feeding them, and just, whatever, which I thought was economical. And, I set up the program for them to learn Quran, learn about the religion, learn the African culture and everything. So he agreed. And at that point.
So what made you decide to actually have this be a school for other children as opposed to like, I'm just going to take Amina and maybe Yusuf as well? What made you want to make this something for others to benefit from?
Well, I guess two things. Number one, I felt it would be a good opportunity for somebody. I was never a person who just kept everything for me and my family. I never felt that. That's one thing. And therefore, and that was one thing. And then I said, well, okay, this will also give me a reason to be there and help me with support and pay for the program, because that also came, even though that didn't quite happen that way. But that was also, I said, well, this way I can also have income and support us all being there. That was my intent.
And did you think at that moment, like, had you talked to other parents, did you think the other parents would be interested in sending their children, or?
No, I didn't talk to anybody. I just grabbed my child and went over, because I knew no matter where I was, I had children. And again, I had Jamil, and I had my son, small Fatima Muhammad and Gumar. I had my children. And there's nowhere in the world, even now, if I couldn't, I had Majida, I have an extended family already.
Oh, I know.
From here and there. So, like the Africans say, I didn't have a job or I didn't have a place to eat and sleep. And that's all you work for in life anyway, mostly for the eating and sleeping. and some clothes on your back. So I didn't consult. Some people knew I was going to stay before I even left. One sister wanted me to take care of her kids, let her kids come. In fact, her kids came with us. And when they were to leave, she was going to leave her kids. I said, well, I can't take anybody else's children right now. I need to see how I'm going to survive and manage with my own kids, for feeding them, housing them, sickness and whatever. I said, just give me some time. And she got very upset with me because I refused to take her kids at that time because I didn't want to put on something on myself that I know that I didn't know if I could handle or not. Because my living in Africa, in Senegal, was a lot different from when we moved to Ghana. And my situation was more, I had my own refrigerator, my own stove. I didn't have to cook outside. And, it's just a different lifestyle and so forth. So, but we have people who came from Sister Safa in Atlanta who knew, like my daughter Fatima, and they knew Jamil. They wanted their kids to come. Malkia, Malika, and she had 2 sons also who
So these
wanted to come.
people who wanted to come, why did they want to send their children there?
Everybody wanted their children to study Quran. That's one thing. And I think they prefer their children to be in Africa learning more so than be someplace else. That's one. And 2, they knew me. They knew that I'm someone who understands where the kids came from and that I was going to take care of them. That's the main thing. They wanted somebody who they knew who would take care of their children. Which was what makes a difference in a relationship. So when I knew these kids wanted to come, I came back home to visit. So that's when the mothers called me about the kids coming. By then I had moved to the Yellow House. Because prior to that,
we got to back up. What is, for everybody who does not know, tell us about the Yellow House. What is it? Yeah, how did it start?
It's a house that Sheikh Hasan had brought, and it had about 8 rooms, 8 large rooms. And so, and he had promised that I could move to this house. But prior to that, I was living in the house that now belonged to Imam before he had the house. So once I moved to the Yellow House, then I had room to put people up in. So when I went home, the family who wanted, the 5 kids who wanted to come over, I said, well, these people come from Georgia. They all accustomed to houses, with a backyard. They were accustomed to more. So at that time, my money was short, but I borrowed money from, I think Mubarak, one of my friends here in New York. I said, can you lend me money to fly back to Senegal so I could fix up these rooms for these kids to come? So he did. So I flew back to Senegal. I bought fans in the room, had the rooms painted, fixed the bathroom, try to make things a little bit nice for them. So I had fixed the whole house, and I flew back to New York. I did all that in 2 weeks. And some of the Ghanaians Mahmoud, who's now my son-in-law, he was there. So I left him to make sure some of the contract work that I need to have done. So he sort of oversaw that for me. And so I flew back and brought the kids over. So that was the first group of kids. And Amina was happy.
Who was in that group of kids? Do you remember? Do you remember that group of kids, who they were?
Yes. Sister Safa Muhammad, who she's in Atlanta. She sent her daughter and 2 of her sons over. And another sister, Malkia, I can't think of Malkia, Malika, I can't remember her mother's name. I can see her face is clear. So it was 4 of them.
What year was that?
And this other, Rashad, another brother, Rashad, also from Atlanta. The other people came from Atlanta initially. So, and then after that is when other people start sending their kids over. And one day, 33 kids end up being there in total.
Staying in the Yellow House, 33 kids from America?
Just about 33. I think a few of them stayed at, some of them stayed at Yafatu. Sometimes, occasionally people will come and send their kids to Yafatu's house or send them someplace else until they find out that the kids weren't managing well, because the kids had to become instantly Senegalese and they were away from everything that they knew. So sometimes even the mother was, one or two of the mothers that just came over and stayed as well. So that was helpful and so forth. But so basically we were taking care of the kids, but you always have one of the problem I was hearing that some people here saying, oh, but your kids just send over $200 a month. That's too much. Because that will feed a whole family, whatever. I said, look, our kids had eggs for breakfast. Sometimes our kids had pancakes for breakfast. When I cooked fish, everybody had a fish, because I would buy a fish for everybody, you know, when we was a customer and so forth. I made macaroni and cheese for them occasionally. But Sheikh Hassan said up front, they cannot eat American food every day. So our lunch was Senegalese, but for dinner we ate American. I even made chicken dumplings, spaghetti and meatball. You know, everything that we was accustomed to. I even made liver. One of the kids' mother called and he told her, guess what, Ma? I eat liver now. Because when you're there, I guess you eat what you get and you're happy to have something that you can enjoy. So the kids, and after a while, other children started coming from Chicago, Carver, and all them, a few of them came from New York and so forth. Hassan, Suleiman. Well, actually, after meeting the next group of American kids that came actually was Ahmed and Yusuf, Sufi's kids.
Yeah.
They came over. They didn't know they was coming either.
Yeah, I heard.
He took them to England. He went to Morocco and bought a big can of apricot jam. He brought them there and left them. So they didn't, even their mother didn't know that they was going to stay and so forth. But they were really very nice, good young men, very well mannered and so forth. And so everybody will talk about what good boys they were, how well mannered they were. And but when they got sick, especially you said really, when they had malaria, got sick, they were really like pitiful.
Aren't we all?
Like typical man being sick, really pitiful. So I always had to bring them into my where I lived at in my room and I could watch them 24 hours and so forth. But so I guess so because of that, and they were young, because I think I don't think Yusuf even started, maybe in the first grade, if that, when they went over. So they were really like, even now, they're like more my children at the beginning than some of the other kids. And then another mother came over with her son and daughter. She stayed, and I knew her from America, and I was really, really happy that she came, because then it gave me another woman I could talk to, because you do miss female companionship, things that you talk about with other sisters and most the people who spoke English is always men. I found the same thing when I was in Ghana. Everyone I knew were men. So to have a female friend was always a nice thing. But unfortunately, I don't know, I always had resentment, but she just resented my being there and the relationship that I had with Sheikh Hasan and his family and so forth. So that's the first time in my adult life that I found myself in a physical fight, because she attacked me one day to fight me. So that was something I was really upset about. So I went to Sheikh Hassan's house. I had a phone in my house. On my phone, you could just make calls from. But at that time, I didn't have a phone. So I went to Sheikh Hassan's house to get my weekly call from Jamil, Amina's father. And I was very upset. And Sheikh Hassan saw my face. He knew something was wrong. So when I went to get my phone call, he came to the room and listened to what I was saying. Then he got upset because I didn't tell him first. And then Jamil called Sheikh Hassan, said, I didn't bring my family there to be abused and so forth. So that was the only really down thing that we had at the time that I was there. But most of the family members who came over, and some of the sisters stayed, we had a nice relationship. Hajja Suleiman's mother and his sister Hafisa. We used to follow Baba Lumine making ziks at night. We used to follow him around. We were like, what do they call it? Goopies, whatever you call them. we listen. Is that Baba? He's over here, or he's over there. So we were at night wandering around looking for where he was making ziks. So it became nice for me when other people did come, and so so it was like even with the kids in school. When by then his son and all the Atlanta people came, Carver came. Carver felt he was independent enough to have his own place. So he found himself a room. So he didn't stay in the, but he would get his meals. So we went.
He wasn't in the yellow house.
Yeah, he didn't stay in the yellow house. He stayed there, when he first came, but then he wanted his own place. He wanted to be independent of everyone. So he found his own place. So I went over, checked it out, made sure he had money for rent and so forth. And alhamdulillah, he did well. And we had a court system. Every Wednesday we had court. His son was the judge. So any problems and so forth. But one day, I'm not gonna name names, but I really know who he is. I had one of the boys. I noticed that the younger kids, when he's around, their eyes be going this way and that way. I said, oh, somebody being bullied. So when we had court that Wednesday, and I mentioned, I said, it seemed to me that some of the kids are being bullied. And I saw everybody's head shaking up and down. I said, uh-huh. So then I was telling them stories of my father in the Old West when he worked on the railroad, because he had to leave home when he was like 9 years old because of difficulty with a stepfather. So I was telling them the story of my father's life in the Old West. He had to carry shotguns and all that kind of stuff. He had to shoot his way to work and all that. And I'm talking about a bully and what happened to a person who was bullying other people. And so from that point, they started calling my father, Slim Jim and so forth. And who was it? Zaki wrote a whole story about my father's adventures and so forth and drew pictures on it. But when I mentioned the bullying, it did stop. I didn't name the names because they knew who they were. And I mean, we had a good system. I had two brothers, two of the kids, that everybody always wanted to know how I always knew what happened, what was going on. But I had two of the brothers who nobody would ever expect. I know how to get information from them. So I always, when people were someplace they shouldn't be or or something going on, those were the ones who always let me know. Well, they didn't know they was letting me know either. But I just was able to manipulate them to get the juice out.
For everybody's benefit, Makes sense. For everybody's benefit, you got to watch out for them.
Yeah, and so, and the older kids, like Carver, my niece, Wyman, who I took with me also, she be wandering around. She was sort of, she keeps herself most of the time. So she'd be wandering all over the village. And so Carver, I saw her over here, this group of people, nobody know who these people are. She'd be going here and there. So they was looking out for each other. So which was a good thing. And as a whole, like when we would eat together as a group, and whatever food that was left over, which I didn't know at that time, my grandson Idris particular, he would take all the leftovers and take it to the other school where the kids had less. So the kids, they would do stuff like that. They would share with other people. And where my money didn't come in time and everything was, I'm struggling. And I remember one instance, the kids, they said, well, I'm going to go to Sheikh Hassan's house to eat. I said, you go to Sheikh Hassan eat tonight because maybe we're eating beans tonight, not eating what you want to eat. Then you need to go to Sheikh Hassan's every night because you can't stay here and go through the struggle with us. Then I don't need you here. So they just looked at me, but they stayed and ate beans that day and so forth. So because I didn't want them to feel that when things got tough, what they say, the tough get going, they need to stay. We were a team and live like that. And so sometimes they would do certain things. I was upset with all the boys or something. So I was going to send them to the farm to sleep. Well, Sheikh Hasan, I complained to Sheikh Hasan. He said, "Oh, send them to the farm. They're just spend the night there." So I came back. I told them to go to the farm. Then they go to Sheikh Hasan and complain that I sent them to the farm. He said, "There's snakes there. They just out there." So he said, "Oh, well, y'all need to go back home." So, so they came back looking at me like, So I go to Sheikh Hasan. I said, "Why you told me to send them to the farm, and then you take their side against me?" But that's a little thing we would joke about and so forth. And
So,
when I was
go ahead.
no, so when I was there, Sheikh Hassan was like we like sisters and brothers. So he's always saying, if I go west, you want to go east. I said no, because if I'm going east, that means east is better, and you can do it this way, that way. And he would he he would respect me, and I also respect that when we had our relationship, we could say almost anything we wanted to say, and we would make jokes and things of this type. Certain things that go on in the village, like one instance, one of his uncle wives, her family was really slaves, and they had married, and she had children. And one day, the family that owned her family came and said, "Well, your wife is belong to us." So this particular relative of Sheikh Hassan, he had to buy his wife and his children. And I thought, so I was reading about slavery and different things, and there it was right there. So Sheikh Hassan, so he would call and ask me my opinion to make me feel good. Like one man I guess he wanted to divorce his wife. So instead of divorcing her, he wrote it on a piece of paper and stuck it in his files, like I divorce you or whatever. But he never told her, never told anybody else. So when he died, they found this letter that he wrote his wife to divorce her. So I told, so Sheikh Hassan called me, "So what is your opinion on that?" I said, "Well, number one, he never told her, and evidently he was still living with her. And then there's no witness. So she should inherit like everybody else would." So Sheikh Hassan, yes, that's what his conclusion was. But no, he was good at bringing me into things to make me think about the religion, about dealing with hadiths and so forth.
Alhamdulillah, that's amazing. Just hearing about you all's interaction and how all that you learned from him, and that's really amazing. One thing that I did want to ask is, so you mentioned that you took care of the young people who are staying in Yellow House, and very involved with their day to day. I guess I wanted to know a little bit more about their studies. Like, what were they studying? What was Sheikh Hassan's involvement with their studies? Because as you mentioned with Amina and everybody else, they went there to memorize Quran. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, well, okay, basically they were studying Quran, as you would know that, which was from Fajr to Isha. And as they get near the end, they will stay studying to midnight. So, but I taught them history from their day off, which was Wednesday afternoon, Thursday. So I would they were dealing with the hadiths and Islamic history. And also the Chabite, the Quranic teachers, whatever surah that the children were on, then he would explain that surah to them. So as they were learning the Quran, they was also learning the meaning of it. So it wasn't just them learning recitation of the Quran. They was also reading and writing it. They may not have understanding of Arabic from word to word, but they had an understanding what the surah was saying to them. I remember Sheikh Bitte taught taught kids how to make correct wudu, and even making when they made ghusl. And I remember when Mina came home was telling me what he had taught them. He said, when you wipe yourself, certain girls, you have your menses and so forth, and you wipe yourself with your hand, clean yourself with your hands and wipe it on the wall, your hands on the wall, something like that. I just never thought of doing that separate. It was all part of the washing, but he has explained it to them differently. So even the Quranic teacher was the main focus in their life as far as teaching is concerned. So they were the one would teach them Islamic law, the fiqh, and so forth. About the Tariqa and so forth, that information They probably get most of that from Sheikh Hassan or just being there. Are you still here, Samia?
Here, sorry. I just didn't want my face to keep popping up, but it's fine. I'll keep
Oh,
it
your
up.
face wasn't doing nothing. At least for me, it was there. That's your name.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so you're saying they were learning fiqh and
Yeah,
learning a little bit about the
and I did history with them because I always enjoy history, and I was.
What kind of
Whatever.
history? Islamic history? Were they
Oh,
learning
yeah,
about
no,
like some
I
of the
was
history of
teaching
Islam in
Islamic.
West Africa?
Islamic history,
Hmm.
like, and they were anxious to learn, but me and I used because I always had stories with it. Because sometimes I may read 2 or 3, even I would read 2 Qurans at a time, different translators, picture of Yusuf Ali. Excuse me. So, and I would compare things. And the same thing with hadiths. So I would read, the history, Bukhari, then I'll read in a Muslim, then I'll read the, like, Martin Luther's book on Islam about the Prophet, because he had a very excellent book, I felt. And so I would put everything together. I put them in the adventure. So when they was fighting, you could imagine yourself riding on a camel in the middle. So that's how I always saw history for myself, even growing up. I always put myself in that era. Like when I was young, I was a young kid, 6, 7 years old. I wanted to join the French Revolution resistance because it sounds so exciting to me. Because I put myself right into it. That was why it's always my favorite subject, history. So I would do a lot of history. And they also like, I had a World Book Encyclopedia. So somebody will come in and want to look up, say, a camel. Next thing I know, the room is full of kids. Everybody had a book. So they were also, reading some English things. I was teaching some of the younger people, like my grandkids, Yusuf and them. So I was also teaching them phonics and English stuff at my household. And Shaykh Hassan sons, that's how they learn English. And because some of the Senegalese learned what my kids wasn't learning.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So a good example of that, Idris, one of my grandkids, he could not, I don't know, you'd point to a K, he will give you a W sign. Like the phonics meant nothing to him. It was so frustrating. So when I left Senegal, we were going to go to Ghana. I put him in school here for a little while. Because and when he would come home with homework, I just got nauseous because he just wouldn't click at all. And we went to Ghana. The kids are outside playing. And they ran in the house screaming. My granddaughter so high to, Grandma. She couldn't even talk. They saw a cobra ready to strike. Well, Idris that morning didn't know a L from a Y or a T. He ran in the house, hooked up the World Book Encyclopedia, and read about every snake in the world, about the rainforest, everything else. And every night you'll find him under the covers reading, to the point that teachers in school complained all he did was read. But I always said, if it wasn't for that cobra, he would not know anything at all. But I think with the group that we had, the first group of kids, they sort of had each other. And I think they sort of enjoyed me. I didn't hear too much, a lot of complaints or whining to their parents. I mean, you may ask for money, you may ask for little stuff that you ask for, but I didn't hear anyone necessarily saying I want to go home, I didn't want to finish studying and so forth. I remember Sekou, one of the he was from the New York area. He used to always his stories. He always sing his stories. He'll come home singing this or do her a lady everything was a song. Or I had painted each room different color, like the boys' orange room, we had a blue room. We had different colors for each room. So I would go and check the room to see who cleaned up. So he'd run behind me, Grandma coming to the blue room, Grandma coming to the orange room. For him, everything was a song and so forth. So, I enjoyed them. I didn't really feel like I had a real problem. And during Ramadan, when we get up for suhoor, most people there would eat up until until Fajr, until they had to stop eating. And so some of the it's no different than some of the older people who were there. But some of the people from Ivory Coast and different places, some of the other students who were studying in Senegal. So sometimes they would come and eat with us. They eat dinner with us as well. And we had we have Zix. People would come and make Zix like my son-in-law, his mother, she was excellent. She was overdid us. I mean, you know, what's the name for making Zix? So whenever she would come, we have a big thing for her, and she'll make Zix. And even for her to walk Sheikh Hasan home from the mosque, she's making Zix and dancing and everything else. So we used to really enjoy when she would come and visit with us and stay with us. So it was a good time for me. I really enjoyed being there. But also living in Africa, you really had to have. I thought you need to have your own. I never wanted to be dependent on Sheikh Hassan house, and I used to always tell the boys that and the girls, you know, when y'all come back to visit, don't come empty-handed and stay and somebody take care of you. You need to send your own 2 feet. You be young men and young women. You know, you come to pay your way. Because I saw people like I don't know where they came from, 2 guys that came as strangers. You know how Sheikh Hassan was. He in Senegal, period, in Medina. They gave him a place to stay, food to eat, and they left. Oh, thank you for everything. We can tell all of our friends so they can come too. And Sheikh Hassan looked at them. You know, you didn't say, here's a nickel. Can I buy some sugar? You know, nothing. And that was the attitude of a lot of people who came there. And I sort of saw that, and I was embarrassed by that as an American, because how can you leave America, the quote land of plenty, and your plenty when people minimum wage is $50 a month, you know, and like in Gambia and in Senegal, I think maybe the minimum was a little under 100 a month. So, you know, how can you leave and go someplace and expect somebody to take care of you? That's why I said, tell Sheikh Hassan, stop telling everybody we're waiting for you. I said, when you tell American we're waiting for you, they feel you're waiting to take care of them as well. But he didn't really.
Actually, Sister Kareemah, to that point, one thing that I've heard some people, and I would be curious to know if you've heard this as well, is that, you know, obviously Sheikh Hassan was so generous, as you're saying, would not expect anything in return for, you know, caring for people, providing them housing and food and things like that. One story that I've heard is that, you know, Sheikh Hassan, when people would complain, like, oh, Sheikh Hassan, why are you spending so much of your own money, especially for the Americans? He would say, these are the reparations owed to them. Have you heard about this?
That he was the what?
He would explain, these are the reparations owed to them. This is like the reparations owed to them.
No, I never heard them. I never heard him say that.
Okay.
Maybe he said it. Maybe he said it to me. I just don't remember hearing him say that. But you know, we take care of the kids, even though the parents sent money, they didn't send money. The kids still had to eat. They still had to be bought their clothes. If somebody was sick, we stick them. Should make sure they get medical care. You know, for me, I treated them the same as I would treat Amina until Amina complained one time, like, who's your children? I said, well, everybody's my children because they all here. You know, so I couldn't give you and don't give them. When Jamil came with stuff, he divided everything between Amina and all the kids that were there, and then he would send things, you know, he'll buy junk food. And Hafisa was complaining about junk food and some canned goods that I had to ask for on the phone. She said, we don't eat canned goods. I said, okay. When she came to the first call, she called her husband, please send me some string beans in a can and send me something in the can and send me some Tootsie Rolls. But you know, those little things you just get, once you eat them, it's finished for the next year. So those little treats, Jamil was good for bringing treats. Everybody was happy when you know, when he come. Plus he was slaughter a sheep and cook it. He's probably the only man who could cook and carry pots. No, even who the man was in Senegal, who he worked for, he didn't want to carry a pot. So he would cook a big sheep and goats, whatever, and he would send food to Yafatu house and Sheikh Hassan house. So everybody always looked forward when he came when he came in town, and he
Alhamdulillah.
would make the ransom for the from the hellfire. He made it for me, and he made it for Sheikh Hasan. Ransom, you always see me making the prayers. So
Yeah.
Jamil had made it for Sheikh Hasan, and he had made it for me. That's why I think he died. I made it for him as well.
Alhamdulillah. So
Yeah.
you started to hint at it a little bit, as amazing as it was there with the school and with Yellow House, there are also, a variety of challenges that you all encountered. Despite all of that, like why did, and both you and Sheikh Hassan in particular, why was he so committed to this school and this opportunity? Like, what did he tell you about why this was important, or why even, when there are financial struggles or whatever else, why we should still make sure that there was this opportunity for children to learn at the school from America?
Well, number one, I know the school was important to Sheikh Hasan. Natural Elm is the school that Sheikh Ibrahim wanted. That's why the school was named Natural Elm. That's why his son and all, that's why they still call it Natural Elm, because that's the basis of it, and that's why it has the name that it has. Even the school itself is like not African American Institute sort of comes under Natural Elm. It's not so much that's in reverse. So I would say Natural Elm more or less is the parent. And for me, I had, when I left America, I wrote Sheikh Hassan the letter, then I made the commitment. So when people send me their kids, I cannot say, well, I don't have enough finances to feed you. And I'm sitting there eating, and my children are sitting there eating. I'm not that kind of person. I couldn't do that. Even Jahan, Amina's sister, one of Jamil's daughter, she got sick, and I put her in a private hospital. So the next person got sick, I put him in a private hospital. And Sheikh Hassan said, look, I can't afford to put these kids in a private hospital because what you have financially is not what everyone has. So I said, okay, but I also put other kids. One of the Nigerian kids was sick. They came to me. So somewhere along the line, I became the village doctor in a way. And so people would come to me and they need to go to the hospital. I would send them. I didn't care who they were, where they come from, whether I spoke the same language as they did. My daughter Fatima, she taught me how to give injections in your hip over the phone. That's how I learned to give injections in the hip, because the nurses they put injections in the wrong side, and people were getting infections and boils and everything from that. So I had to learn how to give. I wasn't giving everybody injections, but I remember Sabria's Marmion mother, she would beg me to give her an injection, which and I'll be fine. I don't want to give them. I don't like giving them. So sometimes, even some of the mothers, they would beg me to give them injections if they have malaria and things of this type. And we didn't have too much malaria. I made it. Dr. Leah Morgan, who's in New York when I left to go, she was saying, in the water, put a little bit of bleach, cause I buy the well water, and I put a capful of bleach in there, which to help with cholera. And I didn't have problem with our kids with skin rashes and this and that, because at least once a week they would have to take a bucket and take a bath with bleach in the water to keep their skin so clear. So I stayed on top of that, and I stayed on top of their health. I did as much as I could to prevent certain things and so forth. And I didn't believe in too much medicine, so I was reading a lot. I knew what medicine to take, what medicine not to take, until I was talking to one of the doctor's wives at her house, and not meaning to, I was telling her, something about one of the illness. Oh, we know you know a lot. I said, oh my goodness, let me let me be quiet. So I had to, because I had to, if the kids had a problem, I really had to know what kind of medicine they should have, because or one of the kids had Bell-Hazard disease. That's the disease when you have worms.
Wow.
And you have bleeding through the penis, especially with boys when you urinate. And I went to the doctor, when I talked to the doctor, he said, oh, he probably has sickle cell. No, the other doctor, yeah, he's introducing that thought of sickle cell because that's they consider an American disease. And I know he had something different, so I used his name and got a prescription to get a urine analysis because because the complaint that that child had, I know that it wasn't an ordinary infection, and the doctor didn't order. I came to him and said, the child when he urinates, he has blood in his urine. So I got his own test, and I found out that he had this disease, the bleeding, because it's a difference when you urinate first, the urine come out, the blood come out before or come out after. So I took my information to another doctor. He said, oh, well, this doctor has his name on it. I said, oh, I just watched his name. I just need to get the test. But I need a prescription for the medicine because that medicine is just as dangerous as the sickness was. But alhamdulillah, I was able to get the medicine, gave it to the kid. And alhamdulillah, he's still here.
Alhamdulillah. And I'm
Yeah.
sure there's so many stories like that of other young people that you've
Yeah,
been
I
able
mean,
to
it was a lot of different things. Even I was like talking to Bilal, I said a lot of things was going on. Y'all didn't even know what's going on because they were too young. They just, you know how kids are, everything, as long as they hungry, they're not hungry and they clean, they were fine. The one, the sloppiest and the junkiest child was Dooley.
Okay. Okay.
You couldn't get Dooley to pick up his clothes. Brian, I had to give him to Brian and take care of it. Brian, you gonna make sure Dooley take a, I mean, he could. You forget, I had two people wash it. One they washed every day in the house, and so the kids had no reason to have dirty clothes. But Dooley had a pill. He put water on it, and dirty clothes will sprout. I'm sure.
It's so funny because you're mentioning these, but it's like I know these are the exact same issues that are still going on today, so many decades later with the kids who are there. So yeah. But so we are kind of running out of time. So I do want to wind down. I want to ask one last question to you, and then if anybody in the audience who's watching either on YouTube or Zoom has any questions, please post it in the chat. But the last question that I want to ask you, and I know we could literally go for hours, like you have so many incredible stories to share. But one last thing I want to ask is, from all of the time that you spent with Sheikh Hassan in the US and in Senegal, and, you know, just knowing him over the years, what would you say is like the biggest or most important lesson that you learned from him?
Well, one thing, Sheikh Hassan was really very serious about his religion. It's nothing that he played with. He loved reading the Quran, and he did read the Quran weekly. Sometimes if he flew from England to America, he could read the whole Quran on one flight, you know, in that particular space of time and so forth. So he's very serious about the children going to the Quran and the education. And even though the parents a lot of the parents was not able to pay for the kids being there, but he still took care of them. And he protected them. He made sure that no harm will come to them in his country, you know, on their stay there. So, and I found him to be unselfish, and he didn't mind sharing. And he wanted to do a lot for the Muslim community. He wanted to do a lot for the African community. So he wanted to do his heart. He had a good heart. I'd say he had a good and clean heart, and he was open to, at least between him and I would say, I don't know about everybody else, but he like if I would say XYZ and he said ML or whatever, then he would check it out. If I was right, he'll let me know. If I was wrong, he'll let me know. And what we had a lot of that kind of relationship, you know, as well. So it gave me pretty much the freedom, you know, to say how I was feeling. I felt safe there with myself and the kids, even though Sheikh Hassan had a saying, you know, if you get involved in something, if you don't tell him up front you're going to do this, he don't want you to come in the middle, you know, after you get in trouble with complaining. And
Save the day.
So that happened to me. I did something. I'm complaining to him. He said, well, don't come tell me now. You should have came me before. I said, well, I'm sorry. I'm here because of you. Why I'm here, you're my mother, my father, my grandfather, my everything. So don't be telling me that. So he just looked at me and rolled his eyes and had to help me, you know, anyway. So he's so fuss with me about stuff like that. Like I had, he gave me an ijaza for hadith. So,
MashaAllah.
alhamdulillah. So me and I sitting in a room. He's sitting on the couch. I'm sitting on the other end of the room. So Mina was sitting under him. So he's handing me and I said, "Oh, Mina, get that." He said, "Well, you get up and come over here and get this yourself." You know, stuff like that. And he would just shake his head at me most of the time. But I enjoy being there. I enjoy being there with him, his family. I became close to his wife, particularly Sada too. And I, we became close. His mother was very protective and so forth. The one time that I got sick, that I called, I had malaria. I couldn't stop shaking, and, and I called him. I said, "I think I need to go to a doctor." Well, he panicked because I never asked to go to a doctor. So he sent his mother down. Y'all father came running down to take me, to get medical treatment. But so he was good like that.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. This is incredible, all the stories that you've shared. We definitely have to do like 8 million extra parts to this to keep learning and keep being inspired by your experiences with Sheikh. Thank you so much. There are some questions from the audience. One thing that was asked is some of the early wazifas that would happen at your house in New York. Who are some of the other Americans who were there at the time who were coming to the wazifa with you at your house?
What happened to my house here in
I
New
said,
York? Well,
yeah, in New York, when you mentioned Sheikh Hassan early on would do wazifa at your house, group wazifa, who are some
it's
of the
still
other
here.
Americans who are in
It's
attendance?
actually I live in the co-op. So when I went to Senegal, my kids are older. Like Sonora took over the house, her and her family, and so forth. And Sheikh Hassan would come here. Even he would come and visit them, and she'll cook for them and so forth. So I always had somebody taking care of my like I didn't start paying rent any place till like 1998 or something like that. I didn't like that feeling because after Jamil and I broke up, then my son Mohammed was paying rent for me when he came in from the Navy. He said, "Mom, what should I do?" I said, "You can pay rent." He said, "Okay, fine. Well, maintenance, whatever you're paying the co-op." So I always had somebody, and this is the same place that Sheikh Hassan will come to, where I'm sitting now, sitting on not the same couch, but sitting here talking about the religion and so forth.
And who
Yeah,
are some
so
of the Americans who were in attendance at those early wazifas? Do you remember at your house?
well, let me see. Of course, I do Majid,
Hmm.
Amin Sharif, Brother Nabi Mubarak, um, Salima Kaba's mouth was one of the first sisters who would come in. The brother said I was gonna be jealous of her. She came after me, but we up to now we still friends. And
I know
so my
you you accompanied her to Senegal the last time we were all
yeah,
there.
yeah. First time she had a passport to leave the country. But
Mm,
I think that was the group of the American brothers, but besides Saeed, most of the other brothers were from Ghana. And then when when I went to Senegal, we sort of helped some of the brothers there to get visas, quite a few of them. But prior to them, Keba had came over and Ali Sek and Kunte. Sheikh Hassan, those were the three that Senegalese that sort of broke the ice for all the other Senegalese to come over. Those were the first three. And when they came, my sister was always giving people something. Always something we got from my mother. Was always giving, helping people. So she and people was giving her things to give to people. So she made sure they got furniture and helped them get winter clothes to get started. In fact, Kunta would say he could never go to my sister's house without her giving him something. But she sort of started the Kool-Aid movement in Ghana and in Senegal. Because when Cookie was going home to Ghana, she said, "Oh, take this, take that." She always gave him something to take home. So she gave him Kool-Aid. So when she went there, they made it and they started freezing it. So now all the kids in Senegal, they didn't know any other words in English, but they knew Kool-Aid. So everybody could, "Oh, bring me Kool-Aid." And she did the same thing. We went to Ghana. She sent Kool-Aid over. So everybody started making those ice. You know how they put the ice in the plastic, the water in the plastic? So
yeah, the readies.
how, you know, that's how the Kool-Aid, that's how the Kool-Aid thing started and so forth.
Okay, so we have another question. This is from your niece Majida. When will you put this into book form? When are you going to have a book about your life? Because everybody wants to hear
I
your
know.
story. We need
I
to make
saw
it happen.
Taslim. I saw I think she went off. I don't know if she's still on, but she had also said that I should call her. We're gonna sit down and do my life. I think I'll take her with me to Senegal, and I'll go there in the house, and she can come and do my life. Because I'm
I'll
lazy.
facilitate that and
I'm
make it
lazy.
easy.
I'm every time I start talking to someone else, it's strangers or whatever, they say, "Oh, you got a book, you got a book." Like when we went to Morocco, I was talking to some brother, I don't even remember who he is now. And we just talking. And so I mentioned that Jamil, I mean his father, because after he also after he went to Ghana again, you know, after we had initially when I was in Senegal, I was leaving Senegal and he was in Ghana before I went to Ghana the second time. And he had this freight ship. I guess he had leased it because he was doing I don't know, fish or whatever he was doing. But anyway, some pirates from Nigeria came and took over his ship, and they had machetes and whatnot. They killed one of his crew people. He was they had him in a prison there for more than 2 weeks before somebody said, "What happened to Jamil?" They said, "Well, they went out to sea, and they finally didn't come back, so people were looking for him, and that's how they found him." And so forth. So we had a lot of adventure in our in our family.
Wow. Inshallah, we hope that Allah make it easy for us to have that
Yeah,
personal
well,
biography.
alhamdulillah, I've been blessed because I can't say anything in my life that I say I wish was different. And becoming a Muslim was really the biggest blessing. Like when I first got to Senegal, I told the newspaper there, which it didn't print, that I didn't become alive until I became Muslim. But becoming Muslim, I traveled more, I met more people. Um, like like there's so many places. If I want to go to Africa to live, I can really just go live because I have people to go to and places to go to that I don't know if I would have had it if I wasn't a Muslim. I might have because I was already on my way to Africa, but under different circumstances. So, so I don't have any regret in my life.
MashaAllah, mashallah.
I just need to find something else to do. I'm getting bored in my old age.
Getting
So
bored.
I need something that'll slow down because I find that I'm walking slower. I used to be able to do a mile every 15 minutes. I think now it takes me half an hour to do the same mile.
Oh man. Well, I know as soon as you can get back to, you'll be doing the laps around the masjid every morning after Fajr. I remember
I
that.
know. I still do my walk even now with the virus because I don't want to walk down the hall because it's closed in. And I just walk around my apartment making the same things walking. So to get that exercise, yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so we do have one last question. What advice would you give to parents who are striving to balance being murids and who also want to send their children to study in Medina?
What was the first part of the question?
So
Yes.
parents who are striving to be good murids but also
Oh,
want to send their children to study in Medina.
okay. I think it's a good thing because it's I get the impression Cuba is doing a good job and she's doing the best she can. But I also see her having some of the same problems that I had. I was there, and and like Bilal will also tell you and the rest of them. I always tell if you're gonna send your children, whatever, even if you go yourself, take care of them. Just don't. You just can't send them there and dump them. Like you can make sure that they have what they need. If whatever they're asking for you to send monthly, to help support your kids, be able to do that before you send them. Because you can buy the airline ticket, send your kids all the way to another world to stay with people that you may not even know that well, then you should consider if they were home, you would feed them, you would clothe them, you'll see if they got medical care. But that goes no matter where you go. And I see a lot of people, not necessarily, I see a lot of people in general just want to go to Africa, but it takes a lot to be there. And the people who are taking care of your kids, they're taking care of them the same as though they were their own kids. And you should help them. You should be supportive. you know, you should call. I remember one day my daughter Fatima had sent a letter to my granddaughter Samira, and she had sent her a pack of gum, a chewing gum. So she opened the letter. We was at Sheikh Hassan house, and she gave Sheikh Hassan, some of the people who were sitting there, some of her gum that her mother had sent. So Sheikh Hassan said, you know, this is the smallest thing that show the kids how much their parents care for them. It was a pack of gum. But Sheikh Hassan saw what it meant for that gum. So, you know, so when you send your children, you need to think, you know, you're not getting rid of them. You know, you're going to for them, and they're making. I call my kids, my 33 kids, they were heroes to me, and that's exactly how I felt about them, and that's how I treated them, because there was a big sacrifice for them to make. You know, you leave your water system, your electrical level, we was lucky with water, you know, electrical. You're walking around in sand all the time. Amina wrote us. Amina didn't want to be there when she first went, so she wrote a song to her father, so because she wanted to come home. I don't know if I heard her song or not. She was dirt, dirt. There's nothing here but dirt. Home, home. I want to go home. She's crying, and in background, her brother Yusuf. This is about 4 years old. You hear him dirt, dirt, dirt. So, and you know, many personality, all of you. Right. So, you know, I mean, that's the kind of sacrifice. And that's why I was so happy when other American kids came, because she felt better, because suddenly she was a big sister and so forth. And she learned the language out of resentment. You know, she told me, I'm not going to learn the language, I'm not going to do nothing. Because she wanted to get out of there. But Amina was always social, so she couldn't help herself. She was there 6 months, and she could travel all over Africa. No more, everyone thought she was Senegalese. But she dug a hole in her leg and told me she got bit by a dog, and she kept digging in it so I could send her home. I mean, you know, so I'm just trying to show you the sacrifice. And being that she was the only one that was there at that time, and Yusuf, you know, it was a big thing for her. So I'm just saying that to say that if you want to send your children, think of how you're sending them. You know, make it easy for them being there, because it's not easy being away from your own parents, even though somebody else is taking care of you. But if you're sick or something, it's nothing like your own mother to hug you and shake you, or whatever that one does when the kid gets sick. You know, and you know, it's certain thing you won't talk to your father about. So that's the advice that I really would give people, is to take care of your kids even though you're sending them there. Because the people there really go out of their way for the American kids. Your situation is better than anybody else's situation. Even with Sheikh Hasan, he made sure that he never wanted anything to happen to American kids. When there was a war between the Senegalese and the Mauritanians, Sheikh Hasan called and said, look, he called his mother, and you know, your father was very, very a lot of influence. He would call Papa Os, who was the Khalifa. He didn't want nothing to happen to little American kids. Even the chief of police knew nothing. They told him, your American kids, please go sit in the mosque, because we don't want nothing happen to you here, and so forth. So everybody will take care of your kids, but you also, they're your kids. That's your responsibility, ultimately. So that's my advice.
Yeah,
that's the old advice, right, Bilal?
Beautiful, 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 beautiful time spent with you today, Kareemah. Wallahi, brings back memories, and it also provides a filler of some of the things that we didn't know before. Wonderful job, Dr. Samia, and we're definitely pleased and honored to be in your presence. Someone who met Sayyidi Ali Cisse radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Did you meet Sheikh Ibrahim as well?
No, I didn't. People seem to think I met him in dreams, but I in fact, before I went to Senegal, I think even before I met Sheikh Hasan, when I was pregnant with Amina, I was reading some Imam Ghazali books, and I dreamt about Sheikh Ibrahim. I dreamt about his, you know, his house where he used to live. That whole scene there, and I dreamt that he was being carried home with someone holding his arms, And he turned around to me and said, 'cause that's when they would beat him because of him teaching the religion.
Mm.
And he turned around to me and said, and still I'm a believer. And I had that dream about him before.
Mm.
And then when I used to dream about the prophet,
Sorry.
Sheikh Ibrahim used to be behind the prophet. Like, I got your back kind of thing. And I think that's why Gali Cisse said I was a wali. But Sheikh Hassan said I fussed at him so much. He told me, he said, I bet you not have a dream about the prophet now. So, oh God.
Alhamdulillah. Yes, it was definitely a pleasure, to spend this time with you today. And, alhamdulillah, Dr. Samia, you give me the cue, as, when you would like to, close the interview, and we'll shut it off.
If there are no more questions, it doesn't seem like there are. Sister Kareemah, is there anything else that you wanted to add before Bilal closes us up? Any other things you want that we didn't ask about, or something that you want to share with us?
No, I mean, there's a lot of things you could have asked, but like you said, it would take too long. It would take too long to answer everything.
No.
I don't know. I enjoyed being there. I enjoyed being a Muslim. And I wish I could have memorized the Quran. I think when I went with the Bina, in hindsight, I really wish that I would have gone to class as well. My mind could have absorbed. Now I can't even remember what I remembered before. So that's whatnot. So even parents, that they go over, they want to stay with their kids. Because one thing I had suggested to Marlon Idris, I don't know if you all met him. Isaka, I said, why don't set up classes so when some of the adults come over and the older people come over, that they can have special classes where they can learn all the different stages of the Tariqa, et cetera, et cetera. I had suggested that, and well, I suggested to, anyway, that's another story. But anyway, I had suggested that, and I guess it came to be to some degree.
It's happening now. Definitely, it's happening now.
Yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
I make a suggestion. Even 5 years later, someone make the same suggestion to me. So as long as it's in somebody's computer, mine, as long as it gets back, because that's like Sheikh Hasan. When I moved to Senegal, this is him being a wise guy. Okay, he said, "Well, how come you didn't stay in America and study?" I said, "For what? They reading the same books I'm reading." So I can read the same books they're reading. I come here for more knowledge. And he would just set me up. He would like to set me up and stuff, like when we had affairs in this, and he wanted to make donations for something, he would tell the brother, "Oh, Kareemah donated $200." And at that point, nobody will say they're gonna give money, but no sooner he said Kareemah donated something, everybody jumped up out of the air. I remember the last time he was at the Waldorf, he was talking about donating for something, and everybody was quiet. So no, so he said, "Oh, Kareemah just donated, I think $400 or $500." And one sister got up and ran to the ATM machine, came back with $500, and I had to laugh to myself. But that's what he used to always do.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely, since most of us here, I think all of us are murids, we would definitely like to say 1 Fatiha and 3 Salatul Fatiha on your behalf.
Alhamdulillah, I appreciate that.
You've put in, and I mean,
do that on my behalf of my children and all my 20 great grandkids that I've been blessed with.
Amen.
Since Senegal, I've been blessed with a lot. Children, grandkids, and alhamdulillah. Most of them are practicing Muslim. So you could pray for all of them. That's always my prayer.
Alhamdulillah. So we'll do 1 Fatiha, 3 Salatul Fatiha on behalf of Hajja Kareemah and her family, her progeny. May Allah bless them and preserve them forever. Bijay Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah. So without further ado, if there is nothing else you want to give us or leave with us, Umi, we're going to close it out.
Okay, now that I sort of learned, well, I think I sort of learned how to get on. Maybe you'll see me more often.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Oh, yeah, we would love that. We would be so happy.
Yeah. Okay, inshallah.
Thank you so much.
And thank you. I enjoyed this time,
Alhamdulillah.
this chat. I hope everybody else had a little insight to the struggle and things that need to be done, because there's always a lot more to be done. And we can, some of the things that Sheikh Hasan was building on, like his school, maybe have more help there. And his hospital, his clinic. I was just telling Zam this morning, you know, last year I went there on the night of power, my finger got crushed. It was crushed. And up to now it's still numb. But I had to have stitches, cold turkey. Nothing, you know, they didn't give you injection, nothing for the pain. So I had to get the stitches, cold turkey. And another time I went there, he was, I guess I was having a problem breathing. And they giving me, they put you on that breathing machine, but the machine was all taped up. No, they just lack so much. And you know, that's such a common machine. At least so many kids have asthma. And I have a whole box now that my Jose, so how the father had passed, but he had a whole lot of medicine he was sending me for Bubatol, and it doesn't expire to 21. So I said, I'm gonna send that to Senegal, and I'm gonna see if I can get them, you know, that machine that they use for it's a simple thing,
right?
For breathing and so forth. So I think sometimes we should try to build as much as we can on some of the things that Sheikh Hasan was trying to do, and you need to keep Marshall Elm up front because that was really his name, and Sheikh gave him his name for the school. And I like the fact that his son and all of you, allowing all of you have Marshall Elm America. I like that you kept that title.
Alhamdulillah.
Because that's really the title that Sheikh Hasan loved the most, and that's the title Sheikh Ibrahim loved the most. That was the name of his dream school.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you so much, Sister Kareemah. I think it's just, I mean, we've kind of all seen it throughout this interview, but I just want to spell it out. Like you've, you know, been doing this work for more than 40 years, and alhamdulillah, you've accomplished so much. Yet even your final comments are, we need to push to continue doing more. Like your commitment to khidmah and benefiting Allah's creation is just so incredible. And you really are, all the work that you've already done is such an inspiration, and what you are continuing to do so many decades later, like you have that same commitment, and it's really an inspiration. I pray that we're all able to continue Sheikh Hassan's legacy of service in this way.
And even myself, I like to do more. You can find something passive, passive for me to do, like I sort of, okay. So I don't have the and I have a lot that I feel I can still do things, but I don't have the same kind of energy. I don't know, the same kind of patience to do things that I used to do. But I was still, I don't want to just be in the world and just here sitting around watching CNN all day or something. I really much, I don't know, like I told my kids, I want to die with my boots on. That's the old cowboy saying. And that's, I want to do more. And I feel we should all try to do more, because no matter what we do, there's always something else you could do, as well. There's always somebody or something that needs help.
Definitely.
And we should think that. I mean, that's what I learned from my mother, and watching my sister and things that they did in helping people. So,
alhamdulillah.
so y'all can find something,
83.
something passive for me to do.
Passive,
that I may don't take a lot of energy.
You're doing so, like, yeah, you're doing so much, mashallah. That's amazing.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, that's inspiring. Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah.
Well, we're gonna allow you to, or we're gonna allow, you know, the interview to end. Thank you.
And thank you. I enjoyed this.
So we'll say
we fighting going on Zoom, but I can enjoy it now.
Oh, really?
I may become addicted.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Alhamdulillah. Maybe you host a class.
Oh, maybe on the hadith, the one that you got ijazah from Sheikh Hasan.
Right. Possibly.
Okay, well, that'd be a good idea. Force me to go back to studying again,
Mm.
like I used to. I have to read hadiths like all the time. You know, in my younger years, and people would always call me, asking me about this hadith, and I would tell them where to go. I mean, sometimes even know the number. And
Alhamdulillah.
but I can think of something to do.
Okay.
Doing
We are marking that down.
Yes, for sure. I'm there. I'm at the class. Tell me, yeah, I'm there.
Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah.
So أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقدار العظيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Thank you very much, Kareemah and Dr. Jamila. Wonderful show, wonderful episode of this epic experience of going back in her story, hearing about Sheikh Hasan and Papa Hadi and us as kids. Alhamdulillah, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, inshallah.
Okay, so I see you in California, inshallah.
Yes, and then in Medina after that, inshallah.
But yeah, for Ramadan, inshallah.
Inshallah. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. They're giving you the greetings, Kareemah.
All right, I just got some email. I thought Amina's going to send me an email. All right, inshallah.
All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, so I just click on leave, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Bye.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah.
Oh, that's Muhammad.
No, this is Ibrahim.
Oh, Ibrahim. I'm going to say the baby.
Yeah.
Look at him.
Oh,
is he looking like you?
I don't know who he looks like.
Huh?
I don't know who
hit it. Not yet, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Poor thing.
All right, Sister Kareemah. Take care.
Okay, enjoy you too. Assalamu alaikum.